Hello students, welcome to week 3 for Journ 371. This week we are focusing our efforts on telling a story within our journalism production skills. So when we look at the week 3 agenda, this is a copy of it from Blackboard. You can see we're reading chapter 7 of our course text. We have 2 videos this week that are related to storytelling and cultivation theory. We have 3 assignments due, so that's important to keep in mind. We have our weekly discussion board, which is due on Friday as usual, with our reply posts due no later than Sunday, as well as our blog assignment number 2 due on Sunday, and then we have our first blog analysis assignment due on Sunday as well. So keep that in mind as we are moving through the course content and working to achieve our weekly objectives. This week we are accomplishing 3 things throughout our assignments. We're exploring the idea of storytelling with pictures. We are summarizing the effectiveness of narrative development through writing and photos, which means we're just looking at the effectiveness of telling stories through words and pictures. And the third thing we're working on is examining how cultivation theory can work through digital media platforms. This aligns with objective 1.1 and 2.1 within our course syllabus. As we work through those, it's important that we spend some time focusing on what blog analysis number 1 is. We will repeat this assignment a couple of times throughout the term. So essentially we will complete more than 1 blog analysis throughout the time. So our overall purpose of this assignment is for you to conduct an analysis of 4 well-known blogs throughout the semester. In this content analysis, you will use ideas from the course text to measure effectiveness and analyze the storytelling, journalistic principles, and effectiveness of the blog. This analysis will be about 2 to 3 pages in length using APA format. So what I'm looking for specifically is for you to select, each time we do this, we're going to do it 4 times, 4 different well-known blogs. So whichever blog you use this time is the only time you can use it in the course. So do keep that in mind. What constitutes a well-known blog? Well, specifically, I'm leaving that up for you to determine. I am looking for a blog that has a decent following, either through social media or through their subscriptions on their site. I am also looking for one that has been in existence for at least a year or so, or has a significant following, even though it may have been less than a year. So in addition to a significant following or have been in existence for at least a year, I want to see that they've had substantial blog posts, that they seem like they are relevant and is pretty active in blogging. So there's not necessarily a right or a wrong way to select this. It doesn't have to be a major blog like the Huffington Post, that's more of a media outlet now that started off as a blog. Or things like that. You can, if you follow somebody through social media and you know they have a blog and you like it, and you can also do that as well. In your overview of the blog, the first thing I want you to do is to share the general URL to the blog. So whatever it is, bloggingmom.com. And then I want you to provide an overview of it. I want you to tell me about it. Tell me about their followers and subscribers, which usually can be found somewhere on the page. Tell me about any social media outlets associated with the blog. And if you cannot find direct subscribers on the actual blog website, then tell me their subscribers on their YouTube channel or their followers on Facebook or on Instagram or things like that. That's okay too. You don't have to specifically look for it on the website of the blog. You can tell me their followers and impressions or views or things like that through their other social media outlets. With this, I want you to tell me if there seems to be any obvious sponsorships. You can find this through going through their website, and if you see things that say they're sponsored or through their social media accounts and seeing that they're sponsored, so you're going to do some digging there and look for posts that may have been sponsored or not. the second thing you're going to do then is provide a review of the major themes and elements of the blog. Share how this how the blog utilizes course concepts from the text to readings and videos, and how relevant the topics are to culture and society. So that's a big chunk of information that you'll be doing in this third portion of, that's going to take about a third of your paper. So to break that down, I want to know a major review of the themes and elements of the blog and what they post. That can be done simply. All you would need to do is look at how their blog is organized. You may see that they have, if it's a mommy blog or a parenting blog, you may see that they have, activities with kids, a recipes section. Look and see if they have sections on their blog, and those are the major themes you can talk about there. The second part is sharing how the blog utilizes concepts from the course text. So go through some of the things we've chatted about already in the course. This week we're talking about using photos to tell stories. Last week we talked about finding your voice. Look and see what the text tells us, or theories that we may have covered in the text, and see how effective they may be in being used on that person's blog as well. And then the third part to number 2 that I want you to do is to show me how relevant the topics are to culture and society. So how does what they are writing about relate to current society in that sense, and culture within whatever area they subscribe to, parenting or makeup or whatever it may be. The third thing we're going to do is analyze the strengths and weaknesses of the blog using one of the covered communication theories from the course. This week we're talking about cultivation theory. Last week we talked about agenda setting. As we move further in the course, we'll start talking about more theories. So tell me how you think agenda setting may work on this blog, or how cultivation theory may work on this blog, or another theory that you find relevant. The last thing you'll do is provide a reflection of the effectiveness of the blog as a digital media platform that is designed to inform readers and functions as a form of news. Most blogs are supposed to serve this purpose. They're supposed to function as a form of news. They're supposed to serve as a digital media platform that is informing readers. So that right there, point 4, is leading into the journalistic ability. How is this functioning as a journalistic site in some way? Remember last week when we talked about story structure, we talked about how a blog may cover a typical reporter format or an op-ed format, but it still has a lens of journalism in there, and we're sticking to journalistic principles and truths as we write. This is where you're going to bring that in this point right here of number 4. So that is it in a nutshell. I'm looking for you to find a blog that you find has a substantial following, provide a review of major themes of the blog, show how course concepts are interwoven into that and how it may be impactful to culture and society. I then want you to analyze strengths and weaknesses of the blog using a COM theory that we've talked about. And then lastly, provide a reflection of the effectiveness of the blog as a digital media platform and functioning as a journalistic piece. So I've given you a lot of information. I want you to refer to this lecture and this part of this lecture frequently as we complete these blog analyses, so that way you have some good instruction. When we get to blog analysis 2, I'm probably not going to provide as in-depth information because the instructions are going to be the same. You're just going to do that assignment with a different blog that time. So do keep that in mind. If you have any questions, let me know. Blog assignment number 2. So let's not get this confused with the analysis. Blog assignment number 2 is your actual blog, what you are blogging about. Last week we got our blog going, wrote our About Us section, got it live, posted that all on Blackboard. It was great, wonderful, and went well. Good. I'm enjoying going through those and really excited to see what you all are going to bring to the table when it comes to that. This week, we are moving into actually writing blog entries. So this week, you're going to write your first blog entry. You're going to do this in 2 parts. You're going to actually post the blog on your website and make it live. You're going to provide me with the URL to that. And then what you physically turn in will be a copy of what you posted along with the URL. That is so I can provide you with ample feedback in Blackboard. I can't provide you with feedback directly on your site. We want to keep that looking professional and things of that nature. So I want a copy of it, maybe in a Word doc, and then at the end of it or somewhere in your assignment, put the actual link to it so I can click it to verify that it is live. In your actual blog entry, you will, one, provide an explanation of your blog entry for this week. So telling me why you selected to complete this blog. Provide a headline for your blog. Include a photo as well as your actual post. Your blog post on your website will be 300 to 500 words. So I am looking for a direct copy and paste of what you post on your blog website with right before it a little brief explanation telling me what your entry was. So you can put right above your blog entry, I decided to write about this topic this week because I felt it was whatever it may be, because I felt that this was relevant in this way, a little 2 to 3 sentence blurb, and then copy and paste your blog from your website in your Word doc, provide a link to it in your Word doc, and then post it to Blackboard. That's what I'm looking for. The assignments will be 200 to 400 words in length. Typically, I want this blog post to be about 300 to 500 words. You really, if you're getting more than 400 to 500 words in your blogs, you're hovering around the lane of being a little too wordy. We have to remember that we have to assume that the reader will stop reading at any point. So brevity is definitely in our favor when it comes to blogs. People are looking for digestible chunks of information that they can get, usually in a quick format. As we consider that, this week we are looking at cultivation theory. Cultivation theory developed by Gerbner and Gross really focuses on heavy media consumption and what that does to consumers. It was originally designed to function in looking at television influence or influence of television in our world. Really, though, as society has not just evolved, but as technology has become more sophisticated and we stream and view and consume media in many different ways today than we did in the 70s, that has expanded significantly since the inception of this theory in the 70s. So originally, Gerbner and Gross told us that heavy mediated consumers that consume a lot of media are more susceptible to media messages and the belief that these media messages are real and valid without verifying that on their own. So this idea of cultivation really centers around the idea of cultivation of attitudes and telling us that attitudes are based on attitudes already presented in our society. Media takes those attitudes and represents them in bundled different packages to their audiences. So media is cultivating the status quo, not challenging it, meaning in a more simple way of saying it, the groups of attitudes, the types of attitudes, and how we cultivate the way we feel, that's an attitude about something, is already in society. It's already there. Media tends to exasperate it and exploit it, for lack of a better term, in some way, either for comedic, dramatic, or whatever purpose it may be in the way that they are showing it. We've found that viewers are typically unaware of the extent to which they absorb media, meaning we tend to, as consumers, be more passive in looking at how we consume or how we absorb media, in the sense that media is all around us. You're driving down the freeway, you may see a billboard, that's a type of media. You'll be sitting in the doctor's office seeing a flyer or a poster for something, that's also a way we're absorbing media, versus ads on a game we may be playing on our phone, versus an ad on social media, versus whatever it may be. We are consuming and absorbing media all the time, and sometimes we're unaware of it. What came from Gerbner and Gross in this cultivation theory that was significant was mean world syndrome. So mean world syndrome refers to the idea that the more violence you watch through media, the more you believe the world is dangerous. One of the pivotal points of this theory and what they found in their research was that people really felt that because they saw more violence on TV, they believed the world was more dangerous than it actually was. And they did this in a number of ways to show through crime statistics and things like that. So what it found was that television significantly influences our perception of the world, even though they may be showing us things that are already present in society. It may influence the perception to the extent of which we view it as being more influential than we thought it maybe could be in some way or another. There's a direct link in their theory to media consumption cultivating attitudes within its viewership. What does that mean? That means typically consumers will flock to like-minded media outlets to further cultivate their attitudes on particular topics. You'll tend to watch news outlets that you associate with or you agree with their position more frequently than ones that you don't. And we've seen this throughout time. We see liberal media outlets, we see conservative media outlets, we see entertainment channels, we see music channels, we see children's channels. Consumers will flock to various media outlets to further cultivate attitudes on particular topics. So if we're into history, we are going to flock more towards the History Channel, maybe Nat Geo, things like that, because we're going to want to watch things that are related to that, or a documentary or things of that. That's something that came out of this theory as well. So how does this play within your blog? Well, you're going to be able to cultivate attitudes in media consumption. If it's cultivating attitudes within its viewership, is that you're going to attract people to your blog that typically are like-minded with you in that particular topic of whatever it may be, or wants to further cultivate their attitude on a particular topic, meaning they want to learn more and get more from it. So if you're going to have a cooking blog or a baking blog, you're going to attract people that want to know more about cooking and baking. So think about that with cultivation theory and how you do these blog analyses. As we look at the course content a little further, we're spending some time this week in telling stories, but telling stories specifically with photos. So a photo in a blog should accomplish at least 5 things. It should reinforce your primary message of the story, add to the message in some way, utilize a creative caption and be captivating in some way, enhance your story, and break up the text. The first and most important rule about using photos in blogs is to choose those that reinforce the message of your text. If you're writing a sports-related blog, then you'll write a post about the importance of keeping your head up and eyes forward while playing a game and being focused on obtaining that objective. You would not use some random photo of something, and instead you would use a photo that's relevant to the sport that you're talking about. It could sound generic. You don't want it to be generic. Generic photos do not work, particularly in blogs. You want to find a photo or take one yourself that shows and reiterates the message of exactly what you are describing in your post. Every single picture can tell a story or be an entire blog post. Often it's the words that accompany the pictures that increase and impact and provide the context for that. These words generally appear directly below the photo in a photo caption, but also the story will also be enhanced through the photo. So when we look at telling stories, we covered that using words last week and finding your voice and things like that. This week we're talking about it with photos. So from a journalistic perspective, your reader is going to read the words that tell the story, yes, but your photo, when they look at it, should also tell a story. They should be able to get the primary message of your story by looking at the photo. And so it's very important to keep that in mind. When we look at that, I have some sample photos here I found online that we're going to go over photo captions in a second, but we can see stories in this photo. And the one of the mother that is a soldier with her child, you can clearly see that there is some emotion. It's a reunion of some sort. Perhaps she has been deployed and she's coming back from her deployment. Maybe she's leaving and she's going on her deployment. We don't know. Whatever the case may be, it tells us a story. The same thing with the school children eating lunch. Perhaps somebody is telling a funny story that they find entertaining. Maybe he's making a funny face. Maybe he's doing something silly with his food. Maybe they're just laughing about something from class. Who knows what it is? Maybe they're eating snack. Maybe they're on a field trip. We're not quite sure, but the point is that the photo is telling us a story. Our caption, the guidelines, our captions are going to help us explain the image. We're not going to repeat what the reader says. We are going to explain details explain details an image adds to the story and add information the photo does not give. We're going to use present tense, avoid the obvious, and be brief. Specifically, we're going to tell our readers the situation they're looking at. A dramatic photo of a storm, clouds approaching, could be anywhere. A simple caption, dark skies outside, Lewisham yesterday's hailstorm, adds information to the photo. It says where the photo was taken. It tells what happened afterward. We want to also explain details. An image adds to the story. If you are writing a blog about parents and doing an activity with children, your post should reflect that. Your caption should add to whatever it is they may be doing. So add information the photo does not give. If you've posted a photo of an exterior and interior of a magnificent Gothic cathedral, tell your readers the location of that building, its names, its details, and other things the readers will appreciate. It's very important that you do that from that perspective. You need to use present tense. A photograph captures a moment and suspends it in an internal presence. Whatever is happening in that photo is happening when the viewer looks at it. So past tense does not apply in this sense. When we see the mother and child embracing, that is currently happening for us at the given moment in time. We're looking at that. So right in the moment, it's very important that you keep that in mind. Avoid the obvious. No need to write things saying shown above or seen here. We know that. Tell us what's happening. So in the photo of the mother and the child embracing, we maybe would say whatever the rank of that mother is in the military, so-and-so is returning home from a such and such deployment and has not seen her child for however long it may be. It's very important that captions, since they are brief, do not need to be in complete sentences. If you're writing something, you can simply just list the place and location that it took place, or you can be a little more complex in your language and use something as well. But the point is that it should be brief overall. It should only be about a sentence. So as we're recapping and we're looking at things, it's important to keep in mind we are reading chapter 7 this week. We're watching 2 videos related to the course content. We are completing discussion board number 3, which is due on Friday, as well as reply posts on Sunday. Blog assignment number 2, your first blog post is due Sunday, along with blog analysis number 1, which is due on Sunday as well. If you have any questions, let me know. I look forward to interacting with you and pray you all have a blessed week.